Hello and welcome to Three Stones Podcast Episode 7. Subscribe now and join the conversation.
Three, the day is three, and it's Three Stones Day.
Oh, shit. All right, so what do we got to talk about today, Marlon? You're the one that was like, "Oh, I got a lot to talk about today."
Do you not?
We do, but I want you to kick it off. I want you to tell me what we got to talk about today
Why?
because I don't remember. Nah, I'm just kidding. I do remember, dude. There's so much we could go into with that, though. Like I was reading up on this other civilization that like I forgot what they were called. It was something with the T that they basically figured out how to like make not make electricity, but like uh most of the buildings are powered by wind turbines. So all of the like buildings, housing, everything had like a wind turbine on the top and it like would generate power for them. So it was like free electricity. And they were basically saying how this whole civilization was erased from history because it was going against big oil companies and big propane companies and stuff like that. And they're basically saying like, yeah, this civilization was more focused on like real stuff that wasn't like paying my bills and like stuff like that. Like they were actually doing stuff for the civilization. And that it reminded me of the Inaki. How do you say it?
Anunnaki. Have you heard about that, Justin?
What?
Anunnaki.
I've heard that before.
So there's this guy running around. He's from Queens. His name is Billy Carson. Watched him on a podcast, and then I think Carlos sent me something on a TikTok a while ago about him talking about it. And so basically, there's these ancient tablets that they found, I forgot where, but in these tablets, it talks about these race of people called the Anunnaki, and they're supposedly the god that everyone is talking about in all religions. And it basically, yeah, these people came from the heavens, which basically they're interdimensional beings. And so coming from the heavens, meaning coming from a higher dimension than us.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, and so they came down here into Earth, and then they're the ones who built the pyramids, and then they spliced the Homo sapien that was here with their own, and then that's how we came about. And then they used us to for work and all this stuff. But then like there was one dude who was like, no, we don't want them to be slaves, or we don't want them to worship us. Like it's just yeah, we want them to be free or whatever beings. Because it's all, bro, it's a super long fucking rabbit hole that I've been going on this whole weekend, and it goes into math and why all the things like kind of line up as coincidences, but are they really, and all this stuff. So we can talk about that. It's like a super long rabbit hole, but it's pretty interesting. It like gets into like dimensions, and like numbers are like literally like the language of the gods, because like this is a created dimension, and there's a creator. And then that's why like in nature you can see like reoccurring numbers, like the Fibonacci sequence apparently shows up in all in nature, like the spiral and stuff like that.
Yeah, and
So are
even
you
just
confirming that we live in a simulation?
It's like a form of simulation or something. And then like someone also described it as like a testing ground, or like it's like, so technically if they're gods, they're from an interdimensional being, and they came down and we're spliced from them. That means like the goal is the guy, the good guy, I guess you could say, Thoth, is called Thoth. His goal, oh, he looks so fucking cute. He's just like, what you doing?
he's getting in on it. It's three stones
Literally
and a half.
looks like Yoda back there. Little Yoda. Um uh fuck, I lost thought. Oh yeah. So that we have the power to like become God, which is them, like ascend. It's like this. That's what this whole ascending thing is. It's like it's a mental consciousness. It's like a evolvement of consciousness.
But does that happen? Like, so if they're putting us on a trial, right? And it's kind of like a trial to see if we're worthy to be like on their level by like running through this. It's like, does that matter if you get killed like in between, like in the middle of this, or like say if you like die in battle, or if you get murdered, or you commit suicide and things like that? Like, obviously, you're ending this trial because you get this body to work with, and once you're done with that, you're done. So it's like,
Well,
what is like, how would you think that they would like determine, okay, this person lived a good life with the time that they had, or like how does it get determined, like what? And then that's the thing is like, with society nowadays, we're all put to work, and like we're worried about our jobs, and we're worried about social media and shit like that. They probably have something that's like a guidance to go by in order to be eligible to like move on to the or ascend to the next level. But how do we know we're actually doing that right now? Like, we could be going the complete opposite way just by going to our jobs every day. And that like the government knows that shit. And so they're putting us off the path, basically, making us unworthy.
Okay, so there you go. So then you start.
Can I say something real quick? Because
Yeah.
I think this might tie into a little bit of what I think you might be about to touch on. So I don't know. I'm not sure if I mean, for the viewers, we had agreed that we were gonna try to remote view and meet in Paris, right?
Yeah.
So real quick, how did that go for you guys? And then I'll share what happened with me.
Yeah,
Just
Marlon,
so
if you want to go first, or I can go first, because mine is kind of like,
No, well, so I've only had very short, uh, I think I was telling somebody, it was like very short, like I could barely remember it. And then the next morning I was on Instagram and then I saw somebody's story and I was like, wait, I saw this person in my
yeah, you
dream.
told me. Yeah.
Yeah. But other than that, I think my sleep schedule has been fucked. So I haven't been dreaming that well.
And for me, like, I haven't, like, same thing like Marlon, I haven't had dreams like, okay, if we're counting like Monday through Friday, like Monday and Tuesday are blank for me. I didn't get anything out of that. Wednesday, somehow, like, when you wake up in the middle of the night to like take a leak or like get a glass of water and then you go back to sleep. For some reason, that second time I went back, I guess because like I slept the weed off and whatever, and I feel like that's been blocking me and Marlon were talking about it, like the THC has been blocking my dreams. Like if I smoke right before going to bed, I don't get shit. I just like wake up the next day. I have a good sleep, but like there's nothing there that I can recall. And so the second time I went back to bed on Wednesday, I had some weird dreams where like I could recognize people, and then there was some people that were, it was like kind of like I haven't thought about them in a while. Why are they there? Type shit. And it was just all over the place. It didn't really make sense. And I felt like at some certain point I was trying to control it, but I couldn't. And then Thursday I had nothing. And then Friday I had the same thing, kind of like on Wednesday, where like I had a dream, or I had a dream after going back to bed the second time. And it was like with my coworkers, and I was like swinging through a city. And then next thing you know, I was walking on the street and fucking like in some random store. And I just remember there being a bunch of like meat and stuff, like just like raw fucking like pig meat and random shit. And it had like water dripping from it. And I was like, what the fuck am I doing here? And I was like, realized I'm like, why am I in the shop by myself? I was just with my coworkers because some of my coworkers are in my dream too. And I was like, now I'm in this fucking store. And then I just leave, and then it jumps to a bunch of other things, and then I just wake up. So it's like been scattered pretty much for me. But I've been
but
trying to like, whatever I get, I've been trying to like control myself, realize I'm in a dream, and be like, okay, can I do something here? Yeah.
okay, that's good. I mean, that's honestly, I think the best part is like trying to control it. So for me, I know we texted each other in the group chat and we were like, Paris, something, dream about Paris, dream about Paris. So I went to sleep, uh, just basically saying a mantra in my head. go to Paris, go to Paris, go to Paris, 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 Paris. Like that's literally what I went to sleep thinking about. And then I actually ended up being in Paris in the grass where we were at. And I was telling Marlon I was in all white. And it was like I was in all white and I was just sitting there waiting for you guys. And you guys didn't show up. So I went to go look for you guys. And this is what I wrote. Literally, I woke up, rolled out of bed, grabbed the pen. I had my journal right next to the bed. So I was like, let me write this down. And I said, I wrote, could reach the destination, but no one was there. Could reach Marlon. Could reach Marlon. He stood in a mirror staring at his own reflection. It looked grainy. I was in the reflection in all white. Justin was in a different container, but the mirror had no reflection, as if he were lost. So I was telling Marlon, like, when I went to go look for you guys, it was like if you were. Have you guys ever been to like a pet store where they sell fishes? It was like that. Like you can like look through and see the fishes, but instead of fishes, it was you guys. And I was telling Marlon there was a different dream that I had that same night, and it was something about our souls being drained by parasites. And I think that's what Marlon was going to touch on right now about an entity or something like that. I know that's what we talked about last time.
Well, so Justin was saying, like what's the scale? Like what are they measuring and what kind of lifestyle do they deem worthy for it to be ascending? And I think it's not. So I think in the Egyptian the pyramid of God, one of the pyramids in Egypt, it says like, and I think in Moon Knight they also describe it. It's like based on like they weigh your heart and the more good you did, based like they weigh your heart and then a feather, and then like if your heart is heavier than the feather or something, that means you did too much bad, and then if it's lighter than the feather, that means you did more good. And I don't know, maybe consciousness towards the end of the day is tied to like, community and getting one another together and helping each other ascend. But I would say like that ascending portion is like just being able to think in a different dimension, since technically our brains are multidimensional. That's like what these videos were saying. Like our brains are these multidimensional like machines basically. And then like the way I've been understanding it is like if you look at a two-dimensional thing, it's a square, a picture, and then like characters and like a background. That's a 2D scene. But technically we're looking from above it, right? Because we're not in it. We're not in the second dimension. And so I was thinking like, okay, so say if we can go into the second dimension, would we be their version of 3D? Like, will we be able to see everything in there or not? But then you think about it, okay, now so we're in the third dimension, they're looking at us from the top. And that's like we can't that's what they say, we can't picture it because our brains are limited. But I think that's part of the like they're trying to feed us misinformation about what's really real. There's this weird thing that like everyone just doesn't like math when math is what they're saying, the language of their gods. They're bombarding us with shit that doesn't really matter, which is work, fucking all this shit, like the drama that they're pushing out. And then yeah, they're just not letting us think about this type of stuff. And like it's like just like back when, the Emerald Tablets keep saying as above, so below, like we're taking from them. Like if they're technically our parents, our gods, like we're mimicking them because there was one guy who wanted to give all the information and let us be free. But then obviously there were some people that were part of his group that wanted to keep them under control. And so there, yeah, there's this entity or it's just I don't know what to call it, like it, but there's obviously people like, Jeffrey Epstein, who's out there fucking making life miserable for like a whole bunch of fucking children and stuff. And it's like they're probably never gonna be able to ascend. And it's like there's this being Satan or something like that's trying to keep us from ascending type thing. But it just goes forever, bro. And what started this whole rant was the podcast with Cat Williams and Joe Rogan. And Cat Williams, it was kind of annoying. It's like those people who like know a secret and so they like just say a little bit around it. They let you know that they know, but then it's like they don't say anything about it. That's how he was for most of the podcast, but it was like shit that kind of made sense. Like he was just touching on certain things that like were kind of true and just all this, bro. It it threw me off the rails.
Yeah, I listened to that one too, and it kind of was like annoying though because Cat Williams wasn't really making any sense. Like he would seem like he was about to say something like that was like smart or whatever, and then he would go, uh, because apples are green and this, that, and this. He would just say some random shit, and I'm like, what are you talking about, bro? Like when they started talking about menthol cigarettes and like black people and why black people like menthol cigarettes, and he was like, well, I'll tell you this. We value this in this. And I'm just like, what the fuck does that have to do with anything? He was saying like a lot, some things he was like agreeing with Joe and saying like, oh well, blah blah blah, and this, that, and this, and I know some stuff and blah blah blah. You're gonna get me canceled. And then he would just be like kind of like rambling, like he was about to say something, and then he would just kind of sit there and then like not talk for a little bit. And I was like, okay, so they're just,
Well, the way I
their
saw
dynamic
the
is
way that
off.
I understood the menthol thing was that he's saying it's a cultural thing. Like black people like the most one, especially like the people we grew up around with, like that type of black person, a New Yorker black person, very prideful, very much like I want to be macho, machismo and stuff. And he was saying that
Yeah.
menthol has that thing where it's like this like it kind of makes you tougher. It's a menthol. Most people don't like menthols. It's too strong for them, stuff like that. And so that's what they go for. And kind of like how I like IPAs. I like IPAs because they do kind
Yeah.
of taste like shit, but they're a
But
little bit.
I would argue against that because mint is like a very like easygoing taste. Like you can taste it nice in a mojito, and that's like that menthol is like that minty whatever the fuck flavor. And some people used to chew on like little strands of like
Mhm.
certain plant and just to get that taste in their mouth. So but I feel like that's like the same thing as like how white people love to dip. Like they fucking have a can of dip. That shit is more uneasy. I'd rather smoke a menthol cigarette than do a dip or like a chaw or smoke out of a pipe. And those are more like I feel like more manly things like that are like hard to fucking handle. It's like, oh, gross. Like you got to really be like wanting to do that shit. But menthol is kind of like an easy, like smooth, like, and then it has like that buzz. So I feel like, I don't know,
Right. So
maybe
I'm saying it's a
generation.
for you, it's a cultural thing. And that's what he was trying to say, that's like for black people that smoke, that's their image for them is what Newport, like that's what that is for them, and that's why they like it so
Yeah.
much. Was it pushed on them? Maybe, and that's what he was trying to be super
Yeah.
cryptic
They were
about.
targeted. Yeah. Because they
Yeah,
knew that they were going to fucking, and they make it cheap too. It's like a
exactly.
good quality cigarette that's not like breaking the bank. So,
I would like to disagree, but I can't really disagree. Just like on certain parts, like yeah, I guess it's like what I don't know what Marlon you were saying, like how it all got started, but I feel like essentially it's all basically just your environment and who you grew up with and what you watch and see. Like
mhm.
menthols and smoking, like I never thought about smoking because no one around me smoked, like, and then I joined the Marine Corps and everybody was smoking and dipping, and then I was like, okay. And then it was like the cool thing, like everybody was taking 5-minute breaks to go take a smoke break every like 10 minutes. So it was like, oh well, if I smoke, I can have more time off, I can fuck off more.
And yeah, you could socialize. That was another thing where like it's like a social event now. When you're drunk, you're like looking for a cigarette. You're looking for a group to come up to be like, "Hey, I'm doing the same thing. Like, let's all talk. Like, I'm cool too." And my
Yeah.
mom fucking smoked Newports when I grew up, and so did my fucking dad's girl. She smoked Newports. So it's like a Puerto Rican thing or Hispanic thing too. So it's like,
So I just think it's basically what you see, and I'm pretty sure a lot of African American people saw their parents or their uncles or cousins smoking Newports, and they were like, "Oh well, I guess that's what we smoke." You know, like when I started smoking, I started smoking Newports because my roommate, that's all he smoked. And I didn't even want to start smoking. I only started smoking because he kept inviting me outside to go smoke with him, and I'd just stand there watching us smoke, just talking. And I was like, you know what? Let me get a cigarette. And that's how it started, you know. So I started with Newports, and then I eventually kicked smoking and picked up vaping and trying to kick that now too. But you know, and I feel like it's just learned habits.
yeah. You know, I don't want to go too into detail, but I was in this group. I won't say what for, but we're all like veterans and shit and talking, and basically they were saying how like it's like a upbringing. Like if you don't smoke or do certain things when you're in the military, you kind of pick those up just like you would pick them up from a family. Like, you know, if your uncle or whatever is smoking Marlboros, you're gonna smoke Marlboros. If you're seeing people smoke Newports, you're gonna smoke Newports. And like they were saying how like, you know, it's all just shit that you pick up and then it gets bad because it's so easy to do. And then once you get out, you start thinking about how those things are like shitty for your health or fucking cost a lot, or you have no one to smoke with now because you're on your own again. And you don't have that like brotherhood of like, okay, we're all just out in the field smoking and shit. You know? So
Uh, the, what? So this rabbit hole has taken me many different ways, and it took me to this one thing. I was looking something up about Alex Jones, and it led me to this like hour-long documentary about how the government is lying to us. And the way they described it, they were saying that a government or an empire has the power to shift reality. Because if you think about it, like North Korea, or yeah, North Korea, like they don't have the same reality we live in, but that's because that empire has fucking control of them so well that like they're able to literally force the way they think. And then that's the same way with drinking and smoking. Like they put it in ads everywhere. The ads say like, yeah, you know, you're having friends with or having fun with your friends at the bar and the beer. And then you look at that shit in a commercial and you're like, oh fuck, bro, I want to fucking drink so bad, or I want to smoke. Like when Captain Williams was smoking in there, they were talking about weed. I was like, I want to smoke so bad. And then I don't know if you guys heard about the Fruit of the Loom fucking trend or thing, where it's like they're saying that it used to be a Capricorn thing, whatever, with the fruit, and then
I
there
have
used to be,
I have the Fruit of Loom on right now. Look,
yeah, and so this
it was
lady,
like the little harvest, like the little
yeah, yeah,
coat.
yeah,
It looks like half a croissant. It's
Is
like
yeah.
in the
this
So
back.
this
is this what I told you about, Marlon?
You told me about it, but my sister told me about it way before, and I saw it on a TikTok too. And basically, this lady decided to go down the loophole, and she found like the official documents of Fruit of the Loom with the picture branded. And then I think they go down and they eventually find a deal with the government where they said that they wanted to change it. And so the conspiracy is they're saying that like that's what the Mandela effect is. It's like the government is low key trying to change certain things and see what they can get away with by changing our what we think
Yeah, just
history
slightly
was.
altering shit to see if we
Yeah,
notice.
yeah, and
That's crazy, bro.
dude, it just
Well, because people in those videos, like you said, have had like shirts or underwear, or they had like actual physical evidence that like stuff was like that back in the day.
yeah.
Like just like with the Monopoly man and the monocle. Like everybody says he has a monocle and he doesn't have a fucking monocle at all. And everybody remembers it that way. And there's like Berenstein Bears and all this fucking shit. And it's just like it's crazy, bro. Like
And so the big thing is
have you
uh
seen the movie Mandela Effect?
no, I didn't know there was.
Watch that shit. Mark that up and just keep going. But I just
I didn't even
rewatched
know
this
there
and
was a movie, bro.
watch the movie.
So the on a bigger scale, what I've seen, what I've heard is that that's what they're kind of doing with our ancestors. They're trying to make us think that they were dumber than we are. When really, when you go back and you look at all the, if you read the tablets, if you look at the stuff what they're talking about written on the pyramids, it's like they had higher technology, they had Wi-Fi, they had electricity, they had phones. Like they, with all this stuff that we're learning right now, we're relearning. Like we lost all of it. Somebody is, they're trying to do all this, and they go back into Nazi too, like Hitler. Like they were saying Hitler was like looking at all these things for a reason. He wasn't just going to like Egypt and all this stuff. He was looking, he knew like that the technology was out there. He just had to find it.
That's another crazy. Before I forget to, it's like, so that basically you're talking about the higher beings, right? And how like that's the what's the name again?
Anunnaki.
Anunnaki. So like, since they're so advanced, like just like you said, we've been advanced before. This isn't our first rodeo. We don't even know if the other species that have lived here, they probably had technology just the same as us, but just in a different manner. So we think about things on this planet like a certain way because like people make movies and then we're just like, oh, that's what a UFO looks like. That's what this is supposed to look like. Well, this is what they told me a dinosaur is supposed to look like. So that's what it looks like. But whatever they had built, like futuristic shit, basically like UFOs is what I'm trying to say. Like whenever we do something in history, like launch a nuke or do something where they might see that as like a threat to all of us, kind of like controlling the simulation. Do you pretty much think that like UFOs are pretty much drones to like just monitor and protect and like kind of like moderate instead of, because we're always thinking, oh, someone has to be in there when that might not be the case since they're so advanced, just like us. We send drones out, we have drone races and do things like that. You can easily put a camera on that. So why wouldn't you send a UFO out that's basically just equipped to deal with anything that we might fuck ourselves over in while we're here doing this? Because obviously it has to keep going for it to count. If we're all dead, then what the fuck is the point? If we all die in an instance, then there's no way that all of us are going to be, able to go to the next level or whatever, ascend. So it's like pretty much that's what I'm thinking. Like UFOs are, because like they show a UFO circling this nuke on a fucking military footage where it basically like disarms it and fucking like shoots it out of the sky, basically, while they're doing a nuke test.
So I'm at the point, there's two theories, I think, when it's either it's the government that they find that they finally are getting used to the technology that they use to come here, and they're slowly trying to push it out, and they're gonna pretend like they're the Anunnaki that came back, and like, but really the government's gonna be in control, or it is the actual Anunnaki and they're looking at us and they're like, you guys are about to fuck this shit up, bro. And like they're just monitoring for now. Either one.
Yeah, I was gonna say a little bit of that too. I think it's those two theories. That's immediately as Justin said that, I was like, well, yeah, there's two theories here. Right? It's the government. One, I think it's the government, and they're doing it to create a mass state in a sense, to like basically control everybody within one government. Two, the other theory is that I just like basically thought up about as soon as you said that is, what if they're these beings aren't actually in a different dimension, they're still here, and they're just like essentially what Justin's saying, they're here to guard us from actually killing all of it, like everybody, like they're here to make sure that we just lose a certain percentage of humanity, but not all of the humanity.
Yeah, shit is crazy, bro. Like we said, we can literally split this. It's like a tree diagram. And just you find one thing out, then it opens fucking 20 more doors over here when you just were trying to figure this out. But it's like we have time, and time is fucking key because you can get all this knowledge in over time and be like these fucking guys now, like that are like wise as fuck and whatever. And
That's my
watch the Mandela movie though.
that's my problem is where like I found this information and like I'm trying really hard to be super objective. I don't like I'm trying to be like all right, am I actually finding connections or am I making connections? And so I'm going down this rabbit hole, and I'm watching different videos, and like, I don't know, a lot of things line up. But one of the Billy Carson dude, the way he explained something made me really kind of think, like, along with the whole, like, our realities can get shifted, but he was saying reading a book hit so him writing a book, he's thinking thoughts in this multidimensional thing in your brain, and then he's transforming that, writing it into a book, into text. So he changed his thoughts from 3D to 2D, and then when somebody else reads it, they're basically uploading a part of his consciousness up to your brain. And then that's why he says it's important to well, he's talking about the emerald tablets. There's like the thing is, they're saying that you should read it 100 times, 100 times. And it's because like each time you're literally like uploading the information and getting it more and more every time. You're understanding his mind more. And that's why it's important to read different sources, and shit like that. And I just thought that was interesting because then like you think about what you see every day on your social media, and you're basically uploading that information into your brain, whether you think so or not. And then I forgot where else I was going with that, but oh yeah, and just being, I don't know, it's like is it making more sense because it's making sense, or is it making sense because I just keep watching these
Because you
videos
wanted
of
to.
him and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's super hard, but like I don't know. It just, to me, the from all this stuff that I've seen so far, and it's like Cat Williams also said it, it's like no one's saying anything different. Nobody's disagreeing about like with all the religions, and it's like they're all basically kind of saying the same thing. The start point is like these beings came, or God or whatever. There was a fight in heaven and Satan got thrown down. It's like all this stuff. And like Satan is actually the Lord of this earth and all this crazy stuff. And then like
I mean, for me, what really made me believe the whole theory about the Anunnaki and the Emerald Tablets was thought. And I told you, right, Marlon, about my trip of my heroic dosage, and I actually like was or saw a figure like that, and like it's like
oh yeah.
every basic trip where like someone's like, oh yeah, like there's this dude or this figure kind of creature that looked like a bird, and like if you look up pictures of like thought, like it's a bird figure, and that's why like as soon as I saw that when I was watching that video about the Anunnaki, I was like, dude, like yeah, no, I believe this whole thing about the Anunnaki and the tablets, and like that's why I was just like, all right, like there's no way that there is multiple people that take shrooms and have the identical figure in their trips. Like there's no way this is like something natural. Like it has something to do with him. So I feel like yeah. So you can go into your rabbit hole, but that's all I thought about right now.
It's I mean, it's so the it's just about numbers. Back to numbers. Um, fucking so this part I'm still a little iffy. Like I don't, I guess I don't maybe understand how to explain it, how he did, but it's like where this dimension is the shadow of an eighth dimension fucking crystal, this quasi crystal, and he keeps saying that it's fucking it's proven or whatever, like this quasi crystal, and what we are is a shadow of that crystal down in the third dimension, and then that shadow is a circle, but it's also a shadow of light. And so these people, in the tablets, they call us the children of light because we're in that shadow, or I don't even know what to call it, realm. And I thought that was interesting first because my boy had explained, he told me about another theory saying that like phones are basically hypnosis devices. And if we really are children of light, as they say, that's like makes sense. We're like moths to a fucking flame. That's why we love being on our phones and death scrolling and shit like that. And yeah, and if you think about it too, our circadian rhythm is based on the sun, the light of the sun, and that's what Andrew Huberman talks about. When you wake up, make sure try to get your first 15 minutes. Make sure you get sun in your eyes because your retinas fucking take that information like, okay, we're waking up, and then when you see the sun setting down, it's like, okay, we're going to sleep.
How you're saying that about the quasi crystal and whatnot, and about like we're a reflection of a light passing through that.
Yeah.
That literally is like the diagram of like the light hitting your eyes and then bouncing them to the back of your corneas. There's like a diagram where like it shows how the light gets transferred to the back of your brain, how it sends those images and basically says this is what you're seeing. Because the only way that our eyes can see is from whatever is coming in, the light that's coming in from the sun and everything. And that allows for you to like, actually fucking put out an image. So it's like, but that's another thing is like, obviously all of them, our visions are like correlating, or else like you wouldn't be wearing that colored shirt to me if I was just seeing what I wanted to see. But in this reality, that's what you're wearing. So everyone's going to see the same thing. So it's like, that's the part that confuses me. Because if we're just like, built up of whatever we feel like is happening or whatever, and what we're perceiving this world to be, but all of us are perceiving the same thing, then it's like, I don't know, it's just crazy. It all correlates.
But what if we're not seeing the same thing? It's like for me, this is orange, but your orange looks something totally different. But to you, it's still orange. So we
But
can.
that's the thing is like there has to be a person to base that off of, like when they're just like, nah, I see everything slightly different.
It's what you were taught though. So it's like, in class, you're like, oh, this color is called this. And to you, you're not gonna question, no, I think that's actually this other color because it's not what you're seeing. It's or I don't know if that makes sense what I'm telling you. Um, yeah, I don't know, but I mean, so the way you describe that though, we have that ability in our eye, and it's like probably like some way mirrored about just how this world is created of light. Um,
Yeah.
but the last thing is like the back to numbers, and it's like all the measurements. I'm sure some of you guys have heard about this, like the measurements of fucking of the pyramids, they correlate with the size of the earth. And then if you look at the size of the earth, it has like certain things are these numbers, like or just like our time, like a day, minutes in a day, it's like 24 hours times 60, that's 144. You add all those number up, it's 9. And so all these fucking dimensions that are correlated with the earth, and it's like the whole numerology thing where you add all the numbers together and they all end up being 9. And I just thought that was interesting because then you look at numerology, the what 9 signifies is like this complete being, like or the way I see it, earth is like this complete system. The way it's tilted, the way the circumference, the angle it's at, like all those things, they all add up to 9 because it's a perfect system. And it's like it's not a coincidence. It's like those beings picked that spot because they knew like this is what would make a perfect environment or something like that.
Yeah. I just saw a post about it. It had nothing to even do with this, but like he was still mentioning it. It was like little Sheldon from that show,
Mhm.
where it's like Sheldon, but he's a kid and he's talking to his mom, and he's like, it's talking about how everything is in the right place, and if anything was just slightly off with the rotation of the earth or the chemical compounds, and like how things are like everything's equal. If one thing didn't produce this, then we wouldn't have hydrogen, we wouldn't have oxygen, and all this shit would be off and we'd all be dead. And that how it's literally like a miracle that his mom is his mom. He was trying to like get her to realize that there's a God and that everything was put a certain way in order to be habitable and survive. And then also, have you ever seen the movie Nine?
With the dolls?
Yeah.
Yeah, we watched. I remember watching. I think you told me
When
about it.
when you literally mentioned all that, I was thinking about that movie. I
Now,
was like, yo, what if
oh,
this ties in? Let me rewatch this shit again.
that makes sense. Like, think about it. Nine, and they make a complete being. All nine of them,
Yeah, yeah.
or whatever. Yeah, I
They
need to
all have
rewatch
a,
it.
and they have like a basically like a soul in them. They're just like a sack, but they have that like, whatever is in them, you know?
Yeah. And then and then right now what I'm going into is the Tesla. Back to Tesla, the whole 369. I'm trying to see like what the symbolism is, and if I could maybe implement it. Because if like, bro, like for me at this point, it's like all these connections are too many connections. It makes sense. Like why, like, and then Cat Williams says this too. If you start to learn this stuff, information, you can kind of look into the world now and kind of predict what's gonna happen. It like just because I get, I guess you have a better basis of reality, maybe, but I don't know. To me, it sounds like I'm going crazy. I feel like sometimes, and like I said, I'm still doing more research on my own, but it makes sense, bro. Like the geometry, numbers, and stuff like that. I don't know. It's too much to be
Yeah.
coincidence.
It just makes me think of like, exactly, but all this stuff is put in our face. And then like back in the day, we think of it as a joke and like kind of like oh, that's a wishy-washy movie. That would never happen. It's all fake. Like The Matrix, how it's all numbers and zeros. And when he's like realizes he's whoever, he starts seeing everything in binary code and that's what it's all fabricated of. And if you think about a computer, that's all it's putting in. It's ones and zeros to make the image on our screen that we see. And we've just made it that way. And so if this is a simulation, it's like all this information is being outputted to us at the right time when we want to see it. So it's like, okay, all this is working out for you. You're seeing what you want to see, but that's another bias that I have is like, okay, we need to be able to discover this on our own without the phone being the distraction, the computer or the job. Then like you just need to base your information off like hard textbook, like paper shit that was written down that you can get it that way and not from like word of mouth from somebody else like breaking it down. So like I want to get off the phone, but that's another thing is like this civilization now makes it hard for you to like disconnect and not rely on technology for anything because everything is ran from technology. They're even trying to get away from like we're tapping our phones now, not even using credit cards to that point where it's like you need a phone. If you want money, you need a phone. And if you want information, you need a phone. And if you want to communicate with people, you need a phone. So it's like, I feel like we should just find a way where we can all communicate and not be on technology anymore because I feel like that's a big blinder for me and how you were saying like how they have us like I've been on my fucking phone constantly and I see the same shit that you're seeing and we're getting the same knowledge and then we're talking about it and it's like fuck like it's all just too coincidental to where like I just want to get my information from seeing it on paper or like seeing it in real life type shit. That's what's frustrating for me because I don't want to be on my phone anymore. Like I'm on it too much, and that keeps me from looking at my kid and looking at what's happening right here and now. So it's like crazy because I
I,
feel like I'm
there's
going brain. You know?
there's a reason for that. I feel like because I feel the same way. I've been telling people this too. Like, bro, like I hate my phone. Like I hate being on it. I hate having to take it everywhere. Like if I go on a hike, why can't I just have like a little watch that can send me like, oh, you got a text message or somebody's calling you. Like instead, I
Yeah,
pull out my phone and then I see, oh, somebody hit me up on Instagram also though. Like I was just trying to check my fucking time, but now I gotta do that. And but I like it's I think what the big issue is we're all very closed in this closed circuit of society, and it's like we just take it what we've been given, like this is what the norm. The phone, we have to have a phone. Kids like in high school they're like thinking they need coffee and Starbucks and shit, and it's like all these just like patterns that we pick up just because like we're not being told all this extra stuff. We're not being taught this in school, or like I said, I feel like there's this push to make people not want to do math. Like I don't know that.
It's true because like in school I hated math. I was bad at it and they don't help you and it's like you feel lost, you feel like okay and then but there's certain people that are able to explain things and break it down and I've had teachers like that were good and there was times where I picked up like it may not be all of math because math is obviously very complex. There's levels to it. And right now I'm doing algebra on my fucking online schooling and I'm like lost as fuck. Like I'm using ChatGPT to help me and whatnot, and I'm watching her videos, and it's like some people just have it where they see numbers and everything just works out. And then when you realize those patterns and what you have to do to get that number, it's like, holy shit, like everything makes sense. And if you fuck up in one step, you're not going to get the correct answer. And the correct answer makes sense. Like I did the math and I ended up using like a wrong equation that ChatGPT gave to me and I like broke even on a problem and it was obviously like apparent that like that's wrong because if you want to make any profit the number needs to be a greater value. It can't be zero. Like if you're selling computers or whatever you need to get like some sort of value out of it in order to keep doing that. So I was like, you know, like fuck, I need to know math. Like, and that's one thing that I even hate myself for. I'm like, I have no idea what the fuck. Like, I know basic math and like high school level math, and that's pretty much it. Like the college level is like another beast. And you need that shit to survive. Like it makes things make sense, you know? And you use it in everything. Like I use it in my job. I have to take measurements and I have to do certain things. And if you're slightly off, then things don't look fucking right. And things need to be level. Like we use levels. That's another thing that I find interesting is like who created the level? Who found out like that we needed to have this liquid in a ball and you're slapping that shit on and it's like that's level. Like
That's
it's
literally
crazy.
what I was thinking about when I went to go to get the coffee, and I was thinking about what to bring up or how to bring it up on the pod. It's like, look at our world around us. It's all built by math. All these
Yeah.
buildings and stuff, like it's all on
Yeah.
numbers and shit. And it's like,
And if those numbers are slightly off and that load is off, your house is gonna fucking collapse.
yeah. And then I don't know. And so then I think about that, and then I think about, okay, like what if we built shit off what these numbers? Like I guess what I'm saying, like, sure, we built a 2x4, right? Or that's the norm that we use to put up a wall stud. Is there like a specific reason for it, or do they just pick 2x4? Or is there a better dimension of wood that will be a little bit better, like if it were 3x3, for because to go with threes and stuff like that? A 3x3 that equals 9. For some reason, 9 is a nice number for a hole or whatever, and maybe it makes a sturdier fucking thing, but
And also, you would think that we would like try and figure that out for the purposes of like we want to make shelter fast and easy, and labor is fucking hard. Like obviously, back in the day, they were putting hammer and nail. Now we have drills and things are faster and more like whatever. But even now, we're still making things to where like they can still break down. And there was this one guy who had a company where he had these bricks, and they were made of like bio whatever the fuck. They were really light and you could just stack them and then you just like clip these onto each other and you could literally build a house like that. And this guy was making it like affordable and quick to build a home where you're not like breaking your back carrying bags of cement or like equipment and using nails and fucking wood and all this heavy shit that's like difficult to, put together. And his thing had like spots for outlets and everything, like, and he was just putting it together like Lego pieces. And I think that that's like the mindset of like when someone starts thinking like that, how do I make this easier? I have these numbers. I know what works. I don't have to use a 2x4. I could use a fucking lightweight little big brick, cover more ground, and build a house quickly and affordable for somebody who needs it. A shelter.
that's what that's that's why Nikola Tesla got clipped. They're saying he died of illness or whatever, but he basically wanted to have this energy that got transported by Wi-Fi, which I think they're saying that he did finish it, but obviously he was saying like we need to give it to the people for free, and he just magically died. What I didn't know though is that he was in Colorado. He lived in Colorado, and that's
Oh
where he made
shit.
all his inventions. And it's because like Colorado lines up with the pyramids on like this side, and they're saying like they're thinking that like where the pyramid is like in this circle on the the circumference of the earth, It's like in between the equator and then like the North Pole, and that spot specifically has something to do with energy, and that's why he picked his spot in Colorado to build all his stuff. And he was doing fucking a bunch of shit with electricity.
Not to get woo-woo though, but when I first got here, it was weird because I got here, right? And then this is all gonna tie in eventually, but like I didn't realize like how Colorado was. I was like, okay, mountains, it's very naturey. Like I like this area, it's calm, it's quiet. That was one thing that I noticed is like it's very rural, it's quiet. And then I had a conversation with one of my neighbors here who was like just throwing out his trash, and he was like talking to me, and he was a jack dude. So I was like, okay, cool. Like someone who lifts. He saw that I'm moving. He was asking me, oh, where'd you come from? I was like, oh, California, da da da. He's like, just be careful around here. Like, there's a lot of weird people around here. Like, he automatically flipped the switch. Like, once he saw that I was cool and I was military, and I think he was military too. And he was like, yeah, I'm injured. Like, I'm out of the gym. I hurt my leg, this, that, and this. And but he still looked like his upper body was fucking yoked. He started telling me like, oh yeah, like this is a big like government area. Like there's a high government presence here for some reason, and like you're just gonna notice a lot of weird shit. And he's like I don't even think some of these people that are living here are like real people. I think they're like just stationed here or whatever. Like whatever, like, and I was kind of like weirded out by it, but at the same time I was like, is this fucking? And then I started seeing like Instagram videos where there's like a lot of hidden in like mountains, like there's a lot of hidden fucking like tunnels that like go into these mountains and shit that nobody can get access to. And like pretty much that's like government bases that aren't like recorded, and they're all over the fucking place, and they basically are using this as like a hiding spot for all the shit that's going down. But like people are kind of blinded by it because Denver has this like thing to it where it's like, oh, gays and we're woke and da da da. We're not about that type of stuff here because we're like fruity and whatnot. And like all we do is rock climb and blah blah blah. But in below that layer is like a hidden society of like government people and shit. And like me and my wife drive around sometimes, we notice like buildings, and I'm like, look what I do this often. I'm like I read a name and I'm like, I've never heard of that company. I'm like, wife, look that up. And every time we look that shit up, it's either some air fucking arrow like space, whatever the fuck shit, or like something that has to do with the government, where it's like a government facility and they have fucking cybersecurity people and like jobs and shit like that. And it's just like super sketch. And I'm just like, what the fuck, bro? Like I literally picked the spot where like this weird shit goes on all the time. And I'm like, gonna start looking into some stuff and taking some drives. Cause
I think that's what it is. There's a reason for the military presence there. It's the same reason Tesla was building all this stuff there. It's like they have the underground bases because they're fucking. What I've heard is that there's certain energy sources that give you infinite power. I'm saying that it's probably they're working on that. They took it to Colorado and they're working it there. And that's why like all the fucking people in Colorado look so fucking healthy and happy because it's just this energy that's because it's where it's at on, the equator or whatever the fuck it was. All this
yeah.
shit.
And with the altitude and everything, like it's just they're different up here, bro. Like it's wild. And it's just like I felt like shit when I got here. I noticed like how I was living. I was like living, and like when I got here, I was like out of fucking breath, walking up a couple flight of steps when I work out often, and now after being here for a while, like I'm like not even breathing heavy and shit, and I just feel like healthy. Like it just feels like good out here when the weather is good. But lately it's been weird that like we've been having such a long winter and shit, and it's just like up and down, up and down.
In the Emerald tablets, they say, how like technology is not new. They talk about making a homunculi, like a person that was born with no mother, no dad, like a thing. And that reminded me of what you were saying, what the dude was saying, that some of these people aren't real, basically. It's like I think it's that, like they're these actually full-blown made human beings that weren't
Of
traditional,
nothing.
yeah, from nothing.
And
They
they're
say
just
in the
testing them
tablet.
out here.
Yeah.
Imagine they like fail in society, like they start like fucking breaking down or whatever, and then a van just comes and like scoops them up and they're like, all right, this is a failed project,
Well,
pulls them out.
the crazier thing that I just remembered was that in the tablets they talk about when making these beings, it requires a shit ton of energy. And so it all like where they are in Colorado, the military presence, that dude saying that there's not real people. They can only make it there because of the location. And I can keep going forever.
Yeah,
Fuck.
bro.
I'm
There's a
like,
lot of things that I want to cover, but we gotta like
it's so
disperse it too.
much. Yeah, I don't
I know.
know.
Because it's a lot of shit that I've been thinking about too, and I'm just like, fuck, man,
I
this is
got
crazy.
that dude has a book and it's basically a summary of the tablets. I keep seeing like there's one and do you guys so I think this is one of the first parts. So the tablets were written by Hermes, Trismegistus. You saw the Cat Williams thing, right? They brought this up.
Yeah.
Hermes, Trismegistus. Hermes was apparently like the holder of information. They're saying that it's also this guy Thoth reincarnated. Trismegistus meaning 3 times great because he was very knowledgeable. I think it was like in philosophy, technology, and like spirituality. Like he was great in these 3 areas. Um, the text of the tablet was translated in the 12th century. So this is, I don't know if this is like one of them or whatever the case, but right here is true. It is
Book of
without
Wise.
falsehood, certain and most true, that which is above like to that which is below, as above so below. That is which is below is like well to that which is above. Like I've heard that before too, and I've been hearing it a lot more lately to
There's a
come.
movie called As Above, So Below.
Yeah,
And
I
it's
love
fucking
that movie.
crazy and it talks about that shit where like it flips and shit and they're in like the next like demon dimension pretty much.
Yeah,
The thing with
that's
these
Stranger Things.
tablets is they've been translated in so many different languages that it loses like its meaning in some languages. Like I have it pulled up right now, and I'm seeing it like translated from Latin. I'm seeing it translated from Mandarin. Uh, Isaac Newton's translation of it. So there's like multiple translations of it. And I think
But
it
what is
just
the
like
language that's
loses
spoken
it.
on the tablets? Is it like something that you can like is it English? Is it Latin? What is it?
No, they're
It's a lost language.
it's like well, they're like glyphics, right? They're like these triangle
Yeah,
hieroglyphics. So it's not
hieroglyphics.
like
It's a lost language.
yeah.
Like there's people
So
that say they could like
how
read
but so
hieroglyphics,
then what are
but
they basing that off of? Is there like okay, this letter has to mean like A and this letter has to mean B? Like
it's
how do
Yeah,
they do that?
it's off interpretation basically. So like
So
with
this could all just be
those
well,
of
no,
self
hold up, hold up,
interpretation.
hold up, hold up. So they found the tablets and they found the etchings, and at first they were like, "We don't know what this is. It kind of just looks like artwork. It's on the walls of some temples." But then they found something where I can't remember what it was. I don't know if it's this right here, but they found this wall where either this or some other information was translated in 3 different languages, the main languages of that time, which was the etching things, um, and 2 other languages. And
Greek and
that's how
Latin,
they're 3 of them.
Greek and Latin.
Yeah, I don't remember. I can look it up later, but yeah, that's how they're translating it based on the other languages. So
Yeah, because I'm reading the one that's on the tablet there, and it looks kind of like a Latin type, you know.
yeah, it is Latin. Yeah, 12
And it's crazy because
translations
a
into Latin.
fighter's last name is in there, Sonnen.
I mean, most of these name everything like they're so deep rooted into these things, bro. Like that's the crazy part.
Like
You don't
Isaac
even know.
Newton's, they all basically translate to the same thing, like from what I've read so far. But some of them like kind of just skip. Like Isaac Newton's has 8, 9, and 10, 11, and 12. The first one,
What do you?
uh,
I don't know what you're saying.
like so. Here, let me just share my screen.
As all things were by contemplation of one, so all things arose from this one thing by a single act of adaptation. We're all one thing. We're all from the same source, came from the same point. Father, Son, the Mother, the Moon. when carrying in its womb, the earth in its nurse itself. It is. And another thing, it's like we're cyclical beings, but like we're being told like all this astrology stuff and things don't affect us when literally all these tablets, like we were so obsessed with the sky before and like we were making these things and it's like why wouldn't we be affected by these things?
So this is what I'm talking about. So like there's different translations, but this one right here skips 9, 10, 11, 12, 13.
Oh,
Then there's this one, Arabic version. Jesus Christ, that was hard. That has like it goes into a little more depth. But the one I was just looking at right now is Isaac Newton's because it's like Isaac Newton was a brilliant like fucking mind. So I was looking at this one right now,
Dude,
but it's basically all the same
that just
thing.
quote that I heard one time. And where it's like it says like, oh, we used to look up at the sky and wonder our place in the stars. Now we just look down and worry about our place in the dirt.
yeah, bro. Um, I sent this quote. I'm reading this other book. It's called like the Secret of All the Ages. Ah, fuck. Okay, he who is not even a knowledge of common things is a brute among men. He who has accurate knowledge of human concerns alone is a man among brutes. But he who knows all that can be known by intellectual energy is God among men. Man's status in the natural world is determined, therefore, by his quality of thinking. Um, Hold on, I was looking for another one. Okay, right here. He whose mind is enslaved by bestial instincts is philosophically not superior to the brute. He whose rational faculties ponder human affairs is a man. He whose intellectual intellect is elevated to consideration of divine realities is already a demigod, for his being partakes of the luminosity with which his reason has brought him to proximity. And so like back in the day, that's what they called the space thing, like divine beings, the celestial beings, like that's kind of like if you learn about how these celestial beings are moving, we can also learn about ourselves. And like, they have accounts of tribes and stuff like drawing solar systems in the fucking caves and shit or stars, and they're like, how the fuck did they know about this space? And they didn't have like telescopes and shit like that. It's because we had already discovered it. It's passed down knowledge.
Yeah, and they use the stars as a compass. They use the North Star as like their way to get around. Like they knew to follow certain things in the sky in order to get places, and like they just had like a better understanding of it. And that like we can have that same understanding, and some people do that like make that their life's work or whatnot. And that's why I feel like it's interesting, and I want to get a compass one day so I can actually fucking get like a good look, because you see some of these Instagram videos where they show you like an up close view from the compass of like these planets, and it's just like it's crazy, bro. Like,
Cat Williams was talking about what his space compass. I need to get it back, look into that a little bit more. He was saying in these hieroglyphs and stuff like that, where they like we're drawing the Anunnaki. They all have like this wristwatch looking thing,
oh
and then
yeah, and he
yeah,
has that shit, right?
yeah.
Bro, that was crazy when he was talking about that. When he got into that, I thought it was gonna be something done, but I was listening to the audio one, so I didn't even get to look at what he was showing. But when he started talking about that, I was like, "Yo, that's fucking crazy!" Like
You know what
he
I
would like to look into that.
you know what I think that might be? Uh the tome from Inception.
Yeah.
Basically saying that it's like you can like travel with
Travel.
that and stuff like that. So that is like, okay, this is my
It's a
reality.
key. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's like your time machine,
But like,
basically.
has he always had that? I've only seen him with it when he did that other dude's podcast and then Joe
I
Rogan's.
think
But
he just recently got it because he said somebody made it for him, right? He was
well,
talking
no, I
about,
think he just got the chain. But like, if you know how like YouTube shorts and stuff, they'll like do little clips, like they'll be showing the video and then they'll have a clip of like Cat Williams in the corner and like it'll
yeah,
be posing. And he looks younger and he has his beanie and he has that on his beanie. And then he also has it on his finger and on his watch.
So like an older picture. So maybe I don't know. That's weird. Because that's you would have to look recently and then maybe he went back and then he just has it because he has it in the present and was able to go back and now the pictures of him are different because
Yeah. Oh,
he
fuck.
has that shit. So I don't
Yeah.
know. It could be something that happened recently, but he's. I want to know what the conversation. This is the part that pisses me off. Is like we see the conversation with Joe and Kat on the podcast, but I want to know what the fuck they're saying once those mics go off and the cameras go off, and they're just there in his wherever the fuck and just talking, because that's got to be some shit. Like whatever he's telling Joe after that is like, yo, get one of these or this, that, and this, and he's all about that shit. So he's got the money to do that.
There's
I
this one
think Joe
part.
has put his resources into something since he's such a.
There's this one part of that podcast where they're talking, and I don't know if I'm making this up myself, but I forgot what part it was, and what Joe had asked, but Cat was like, uh, he's like, I know the people who you have to be for what I have to say to offend you. And he was like, I know your big secret. You're not Illuminati. I'm Illuminati. And then he was
Yeah,
like, you can't, you can't be
you can't
Illuminati.
be because I know because
You're
I'm in
too
there.
dark.
Like
Yeah. And I was like, is he saying that to Joe or is he talking about like in general? Like when he
I
when
no, well, that's what I think he was saying. Well, that's what, and then Joe was kind of like lost in it because he wasn't really understanding, and then he went into his thing where he was like, "Oh no, we have a crisis. We need to vaccinate. We need to do this." Because Joe talks in like the third person, but I think Cat Williams was talking directly to him, saying that like out front, and him thinking like he was like being that way, like how Joe understands it, like the comedy version of it, but it didn't seem like he was joking. So I also took it that way too, because after he said that, I kind of thought to myself, I'm like, wait, was Cat talking the same way as get the fuck off as like he was, or was Joe just not interpreting what he was trying to get across to him? Because it seemed like that.
watched it when it came out. And I watched the entirety of it, bro. That's how into I was. As soon as he mentioned Anunnaki and he was saying all these things, I was like, bro, what the fuck? And then ever since that day, that was Friday, right? Ever since Friday, bro, I just been fucking looking up videos and yeah.
You're gonna be writing shit on your walls with a
Yeah.
marker, fucking
I'm like thinking
equation.
about the numbers, bro. The 369. Like I like we have to freshen up our fucking geometry and start doing origami because like this.
That's where Rubik's cubes. That used to like interest me when I was like, I remember in middle school, I got on like a thing where like Rubik's cubes were so fascinating to me, and I was like, how the fuck? And how I realized that there's like a number of rotations. Like all you have to do is move on the left and the X and Y axis basically. You can move. You can just do that the whole time and then just like rotate the cube to get the same like to get those outcomes. You don't even have to like some people think like, oh, let me move this and this and this, and they're just doing that like, and you see the professionals and they're literally just like flicking their fingers and just moving the fucking cube, and then they'll maybe like rotate it once just to get that outcome, bro. But like that used to fucking fascinate me, and like if you move a certain numbers, it doesn't matter about the colors. If you move in that way, you'll get the all colors on each side perfectly. Like there's an algorithm to it, or like a fucking like a whatever it's called. Fuck, I'm trying to think of. But yeah, when I used to fuck, and then like the sizes get bigger, and then the shapes get like they're not just squares, they're like fucking hexagons, and that shit always like fascinated me. Who fucking built that, and like you know how math just works like with certain things, and just it's crazy, bro.
Don't you guys like, I don't know, this is what I'm thinking. Maybe it's silly, but don't you think there's some type of symbolism if you can like master a ball, like in a sport or anything? So like playing basketball or like soccer, like maybe why don't I feel like there's something there. There's a reason why it's so popular too, especially soccer is one of the, I think it is the biggest watch or the most watched sport when it comes to fucking, things. And then like the Mayans and all, they all play it too. I feel like this sphere,
Yeah,
since
that
we
thing
live
with
on the
their hitting with
spheres,
their hips and shit
yeah, yeah.
through
Since
the
like,
ring.
yeah, since our world is a circle, technically,
Yeah.
it's like if you master a ball in a sense, you're mastering this world, literally. But again,
Yeah, because you're putting the curve on it. You know where that's gonna hit. You know how to like move it to work with you. It's like part of your body. Like these professionals. Like I was just watching a video of Lionel Messi and how he juked the dude, and then you see the people in the crowd going like, "Oh my fucking God."
yeah,
And it's like he's looked at and revered as like a king. Him and Messi and Ronaldo. Like Ronaldo's in with the fucking Saudi Arabians. Like he's getting paid millions of dollars and he's like at the top, bro, and like he's that level of like Julius Caesar, like wave my hand and fucking this will happen, like
he's
type shit. Like
godlike,
he's got
bro.
money like that, bro. Like, huh?
He's godlike, and
Yeah,
it's
he is like, and just the looks and everything about it, like it works like that. There's that type of person, bro, that like comes from nothing and makes like an empire. And it's like if there's a person who could do that in so little time, like anybody can do that. They just figured it out, you know? Like that's why McGregor fascinates me when I look at that dude's past and like how he is now. And like he may be crazy, bro, but like you have to be insane to it to get that good, you know? Like you literally have to make that like they probably were sitting there with the ball. They would go to a fucking field and just hit that ball and hit that ball and figure out exactly where on their foot to hit, how hard to hit it, at what angle, from where, you know? And like do that on the move too is like crazy, bro. Like, cause it takes only a couple of seconds. Like when you see these guys slow down, you're like, how did he even think that that was gonna work? You know, it's just crazy. And you're kind of like mastering your body. You're mastering the sphere, but you're mastering your body too. Like that doesn't, it's not
so
easy.
another thing. I don't know who, I think it was like Leonardo da Vinci, the person that drew the man like this. Our
Yeah,
our dimensions make a circle. And so like isn't that also like if you start to master your body and how you can move it, you're mastering this circle around you, this domain that your body is able to encompass. Like it's all, bro,
yeah,
it's so weird.
I
Like,
know.
okay,
Because,
last thing,
but pretty much then you. Oh, go ahead.
last thing. So the triangle. A triangle has what? The angle is 60 degrees for each side. 60, 60, 60, 180. Add all those numbers, 9. A square, 90, 90, 90, 1, or what is that? 360, right? No. Yeah, 90, 90, 180, 360, 3 plus 9. 3 plus 6 is 9. A circle is 360 degrees, 90. It adds it to 9. Um, with the pentagon, I think it's a different angle, but I think it's like to 720. That's also 9. Like these complete what shapes, and then like their area, like degrees, they all add up to 9 because they're complete, maybe. I don't know. I don't
Well,
know.
something I'd like to say about that, especially since you said like math and numbers. Uh, I do recall Nicholas Tesla said something about numbers, and I looked it up right now. And he said, if you only knew the magnificence of the 3, 6, and 9, then you would have the key to the universe. And I feel like right now you're focused on 9, and I think you missed 3 and 6, but I think it all adds up essentially to the same thing.
Well, no, what I'm saying, there is significance, but like I'm focusing on 9 because that's like the only one I have defined in my head. When you look at numerology, 9 is like either like the completion of something or the beginning of something, which makes sense because the only numbers there is 1 to 9. 10 is just 1 and 0, and so once you leave 9, it becomes 1 again. It's the end or the start.